Hi friends, welcome to my YouTube channel Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts and my FB page Dr. Srinivas Concepts. This is Dr. Srinivas, neurologist from Andhra Pradesh, India. I am also the medical author of the book Focused Neurology. Today we are going to talk about a very interesting and fascinating topic, disconnection syndromes. Disconnection syndromes. What will happen if we disconnect the right side of the brain from the left side of the brain? The split brain syndromes. So very interesting to listen to what's going to happen when the brain is cut exactly so that the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain are disconnected. So these are known as disconnection syndromes. But before we proceed to the disconnection syndromes, the disconnection between the right side of the brain and the left side of the brain, we need to know the important functions of the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain. The left brain is mainly concerned with speech and praxis. So the left brain is mainly concerned with speech and praxis. The right brain is mainly concerned with the visuospatial function. The right brain is mainly concerned with visuospatial function. So if there's a lesion, it will produce a visuospatial dysfunction. Now, having known the functions of the left side of the brain and the right side of the brain, now if I'm going to disconnect the connections between the left side and the right side of the brain, what will happen? The disconnection syndromes. Or if I connect the connections between the parts of the brain, what will happen? The intrahemispheric disconnections. So now let's see what these disconnection syndromes are. So the disconnection syndromes, they are basically two types: intrahemispheric disconnection and interhemispheric disconnection. Intrahemispheric disconnection means we are connecting the connections between different parts of the same hemisphere. For example, I am connecting the different parts of the brain of the left side only, or I am connecting the different parts of the brain on right brain only. So this is known as intrahemispheric disconnection. If I disconnect the brain on one side, the left side, with that of the right side of the brain, sagittally, this is known as interhemispheric disconnection. I am disconnecting the functions between, or the transfer of information between the left side of the brain to that of the right side of the brain. So now let's see what are the various syndromes in this intrahemispheric disconnection and interhemispheric disconnection. First of all, in the intrahemispheric disconnection, we have conduction aphasia, we have pure word deafness, we have visual agnosias, that is occipitotemporal and occipitoparietal. So we have conduction aphasia, pure word deafness and visual agnosias where there is a disconnection between occipitotemporal or occipitoparietal areas. In the interhemispheric disconnection, basically we have two interesting, fascinating clinical features: alexia without agraphia and then the sympathetic apraxia. So let's first see the intrahemispheric disconnection, where we disconnect the parts of the brain on the same side of the brain, on only one side of the brain. So these are known as intrahemispheric disconnection. First of all, we have conduction aphasia. Conduction aphasia. I have told in the previous lecture on speech that whenever we talk to a person, there are two epicenters of language. One, the Wernicke's area, second, the Broca's area. Wernicke's area is for comprehension, understanding the speech, and Broca's area is for the fluency of the speech. And we have a fasciculus connecting the Wernicke's area and the Broca's area, which is known as arcuate fasciculus. This arcuate fasciculus is concerned with repetition. So Wernicke's area is for comprehension, Broca's area is for fluency, and arcuate fasciculus is for repetition. So if I disconnect or injure the arcuate fasciculus, I am disconnecting the Wernicke's area from the Broca's area. So the characteristic feature is that the repetition gets affected. So this is known as conduction aphasia, where there is a lesion in the arcuate fasciculus. I am disconnecting the connection between the Wernicke's area and Broca's area. So the characteristic feature is that repetition is affected. Right, that is conduction aphasia. Next is pure word deafness. Here the lesion spans the vernix area. As I said, vernix area is responsible for comprehension of spoken words, the language. So when there is a lesion spanning the vernix area, the comprehension of spoken words are not understood. So when the lesion spans the vernix area, comprehension of the speech language is not understood. He hears and identifies non-verbal sounds. He hears and identifies non-verbal sounds, but he cannot comprehend spoken language. That is known as pure word deafness. So someone speaks, he cannot understand, but some music like someone playing some instruments or water gushing down, he'll be able to hear and identify it. But spoken words he is not able to identify. So this is known as pure word deafness, where the lesion spans the vernix area. Then the next we have is that visual agnosias, when there is a disconnection between the occipital lobe and the parietal lobe, or occipital lobe and the temporal lobe, various interesting clinical features result. So when there is a lesion between the occipital and temporal lobe, occipitotemporal areas are disconnected, there is a clinical manifestation of what? The patient seems to have lost what, the meaning of what. For example, he cannot identify the human face. So there is known as prosopagnosia. So the what is lost. He cannot identify colors, color agnosia. Then if we disconnect occipital lobe from parietal lobe, where is lost? The spatial orientation is lost. So this results in a characteristic syndrome known as balance syndrome, where they have asimultagnosia, optic ataxia, oculomotor apraxia. Asimultagnosia, he cannot integrate the center of his vision with the periphery of the vision. So he misses the forest for the trees. He gets glued on the center of the vision. So if we disconnect occipital lobe from temporal lobe, the clinical manifestations are what are lost. If we disconnect occipital lobe from parietal lobe, the clinical features of where is lost. So these are all the intrahemispheric disconnection syndromes: conduction aphasia, pure word deafness, and visual agnosias. Now let's see fascinating interhemispheric disconnections. So if I disconnect the left side, the left brain from the right brain, what happens? Basically it can occur at the posterior level, occipital level, or it can occur anterior level at the motor level. So when we see the posterior disconnection syndromes, we have a very interesting phenomenon which is known as alexia without agraphia. Alexia means difficulty in reading. Agraphia means difficulty in writing. So alexia without agraphia means they have difficulty in reading, but they don't have difficulty in writing. So how do you explain this? Now let me explain writing. Whenever I want a patient or a person to write, I ask him to write a particular paragraph or a particular line. So what happens? It goes to the vernix area. It goes to the vernix area on the left side. And then to write, it has to go to the motor area, motor cortex. So from vernix area, auditory area, it goes to the vernix area to the motor area and he writes. There is no problem. So there is no agraphia at all, because whenever I give a command to write, it goes from the auditory apparatus to the vernix area to the motor cortex and then he writes. So there is no problem. So there is no agraphia. But if I ask someone to read, what happens? Especially if you see the left posterior cerebral artery infarct. If there is a left posterior cerebral artery infarct, the left occipital cortex is gone. The left occipital cortex is gone and the surrounding splenium of the corpus callosum is also gone. So when the left occipital cortex is gone, he cannot see whatever is present on the right side of the vision. And therefore, to see and to read, he has to use his right occipital cortex and therefore read from the left side of his field. But the right occipital cortex is intact, he can identify, but then the information has to be transferred to the language areas, namely the vernix area on the left side. Because the vernix area, the language area is on the left side. So when there is a lesion in the left occipital cortex, he has to use right occipital cortex. But the information to be accessed from the right occipital cortex has to go to the vernix area for understanding and then reading. So it has to travel through the splenius of the corpus callosum and then go. So if there is a lesion in the splenium of the corpus callosum because of the left posterior cerebral artery infarct, the information cannot be transferred from the right occipital cortex through the splenium of the corpus callosum to the vernix area. So they have difficulty in reading. So very interesting manifestation, alexia without agraphia. They have difficulty in reading, but they have absolutely no difficulty in writing, the lesion being in the splenium of the corpus callosum. Fine. This is because of the left posterior cerebral artery infarct. Now let's see if there is a lesion slightly anterior to the splenium of the corpus callosum. We have another interesting manifestation known as sympathetic apraxia. A very interesting manifestation known as sympathetic apraxia. Now, as I said, vernix area is responsible for understanding the command, which is on the left side because it is a dominant cortex. The speech centers are on the left side, which is the dominant cortex. Now, I'll give two examples. One, to use my left hand for combing purpose. Second, my right hand for combing purpose. So, when I give a command to use his right hand, it goes to the vernix area, to the motor hand area on the left side, goes through the medulla oblongata, and then he uses his right hand for combing. There is absolutely no problem even if there is a lesion in the corpus callosum, the anterior part of the splenium of the corpus callosum. Now, let me give another command asking him to use now his left hand for combing. So what happens? It goes to the vernix area, but then to use his left hand to comb, he has to access the motor cortex on the right side, the hand area, the motor hand area on the right side. But if there is a lesion in the corpus callosum anterior to the splenium of the corpus callosum, he cannot transfer the information from the vernix area to the right hand area, and therefore he cannot use anything on the left. For example, he cannot comb with his left hand because the information from the vernix area cannot be transferred to the hand area which is on the right side. From there it descends and goes through the medulla oblongata to the opposite side, but the information cannot be transferred. The frontal, the area, hand area per se is intact, but the information cannot be transferred from the vernix area to the hand area which is on the right side, and therefore the information, since it cannot be transferred to the right hand area, he cannot use any tool with the left hand in a meaningful way. So he cannot comb with his left hand. So that is sympathetic apraxia. Very interesting. So if there is a lesion in the posterior part of the corpus callosum, splenium of the corpus callosum, it results in alexia without agraphia. If the lesion is anterior to the splenium of the corpus callosum, it results in sympathetic apraxia. Now, a question may arise. Fine, these are all developmental. But what if he is born with agenesis of corpus callosum? There are a lot of development anomalies where the corpus callosum in the first place is not formed well. Agenesis of corpus callosum, congenital agenesis of corpus callosum. Here, these manifestations may not be found. Why these clinical manifestations may not appear? The reasons being, one, the information, though corpus callosum, since it has not developed well, the information may be transferred from one hemisphere to the other hemispheres through other pathways, namely the anterior commissure or posterior commissure. So without using corpus callosum, they can use other pathways like anterior commissure and posterior commissure and transfer the information from the one cortex to the other cortex. Or secondly, another reason may be the dual dominance for language and praxis, which are established during early development. So there could be dual dominance for both speech and praxis, which are established during early part of the development. And therefore, persons who are born with agenesis of corpus callosum may not exhibit these clinical manifestations. So this is such a fascinating topic, the split brain syndrome. So these are the clinical manifestations which result when the left brain is totally disconnected from the right brain. Hope you have enjoyed this lecture. If you have enjoyed this lecture, like, subscribe, and you can post your comments also on my YouTube channel, Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts. I'll be more than happy to respond to your comments. So kindly like and subscribe my YouTube channel, Dr. Srinivas Medical Concepts, and my FB page, Dr. Srinivas Concepts. Thank you. Bye.